welcome to Honest Car Reviews. My name is Eric and today I have the privilege to review the Porsche Cayman GTS, one of the best driving cars that money can buy at a reasonable price tag. And in this review I'm going to explain exactly why. And this is the 982 generation. It succeeds the 981 generation and quite a lot has happened. And most notably is that engine. Previously it was a 3.8, now it's a 4 liter and it produces 400 horsepower and 420 Newton meters of torque. That's in the PDK gearbox, or with the PDK gearbox. With the manual you only get 410, yeah, what a bummer. It weighs about 1.5 tons, does 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in around 4 seconds, and that's exactly the type of specs that I look for when I buy a sports car. And when you buy a Porsche, you obviously want to make it your own, and that's the same with this car. So if you come a little closer, this is not the standard color of the rims, that's platinum silver. And the color of the brake pads is black instead of the original color. And inside there has been a lot of upgrades, which I'll talk about later. To show the engine, you can either do like this, or is it like this? The Porsche enthusiast will of course tell me that what I'm doing is wrong, but there's no button outside. So I have to go into the car to open it. And lo and behold, a compartment. The engine is underneath, just behind your back, but you can't see it. Unfortunately, that's something that if you would want a really exotic car, that you would at least see the engine, but not in the Cayman. This is more sensible, right? So you don't see the engine. There's quite a decent amount of storage back here actually. And since the engine is in the back, it means that you have some storage in the front as well. A very good amount of storage actually. So to use this as a grand tour, if you want to drive some longer distances, or if you actually need to use this as a daily to shop or something, I think you actually could. And inside is where a lot of things are starting to fall into place. The steering wheel is small, nimble. The metal paddles behind the steering wheel as well feel incredibly well placed. The finish, the quality, the seating position, the buttons that are easily located for the exhaust, for the dampers, for the traction control. It's very driver focused in here. Analog gauge cluster. And a very simple and quite easy to use infotainment system. It's D-scale and in some ways it feels quite old school and dated, and not in the best way possible. It feels that the 911 is a bit, you know, a few years ahead in interior department than the Cayman is. But I digress, because what this car is about being driven. But this is a mid-engine, small sports car. And it is really impressive, because when it starts to get into a 6-cylinder in this type of car, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in under 4 seconds. And the sound of a 6-cylinder car, that is a sports car for me. And when I think of cars that competes with this, it's of course the Alpine A110, the new Lotus, but also the Toyota Supra and many other cars. But cars that have a mid-engine 6-cylinder in a small package, there are not that many cars in that category. But then again, you do pay a price for that. The gearbox, it responds directly. It is a bit light on its feet, but it's also very planted, and you get a lot of feedback from the steering wheel. even though I got some air there, it's super planted, very easy to control. It talks back to you very, very clearly. It's easy to know the limits of the car as well. And the gearbox, the PDK gearbox. Even in automatic, it is extremely fast at kicking down, but when using the manual gearbox behind the steering wheel, the pedals, it's extremely quick, extremely responsive. If you drive it at 6/10, 5/10, 9/10, the car is comfortable at whatever level you're pushing it at. It has such a wide sweet spot, and with that engine you don't have to drive super quickly. It is enjoyable at almost any speed. You can feel the car being a bit light on the front. It's agile, but personally I would like some more settled down maybe. How do I finalize the Porsche Cayman GTS? Well, it's an incredible sports car. Really driver's focused, light, agile. No, it's not big. It's just the perfect size. If it's one thing that I think Porsche could improve on this car, it is the front. It doesn't feel as connected. It gets quite light. And in comparison with the Alpine A110 that has double wishbone in the front, this has the McPherson strut. I don't know if that's the case, but the Alpine is just more connected. You feel more what's happening underneath you, especially in the front. But this has over 400 horsepower, just 1.5 tons, a 4-liter 6-cylinder engine with an amazing soundtrack. I mean, you can't go wrong with getting the Porsche Cayman GTS. And it's proven that people want to buy this car, and I completely understand. And if you want something that's smaller, lighter, but still has that 6-cylinder engine, there's not that many cars still to choose from. And if I were you, this would be at least on one of the top spots to pick.